Hi, everyone. Michael here from Night Noon Games, and today I'll be prepping for my next Shadowdark session for my Tuesday night group. And I assure you that I'm trying my hardest to keep this plant alive. See, I'm even going to try to water it now. If you've been watching this series, you know that the last session was actually a one-on-one session with the player who plays Cesar Bond. This was because in the previous session, we ended it with carousing, and he ended up rolling a 14, which meant that he was waking up inside the stronghold of a local lord's with a magic wand in his hand, a family heirloom. So what happened was he woke up, he didn't know what this was, and this was Lord Percy's manor, where he actually just been the day before, so that's how we explained how he knew or how he got in there. And as he was handling this magical wand, he could hear footsteps coming closer and closer. It turned out that was Lord Percy, who I rolled a reaction check for, and he just got suspicious. So after these two kind of agreed to put away their weapons, Cesar learned that Lord Percy is actually a prisoner in his own house, and his family is being held captive, essentially because the villains of the area are blackmailing Lord Percy into doing their bidding, and there's not much that he can do about it. So he was really grateful to actually see someone who could help him out. And of course, Lord Percy let Cesar, who is a bard, keep the wand if he promises to help out the city and his family with it. So essentially, Lord Percy had this huge lorddom. Cesar Bond is actually a sailor as his background, and he's fairly new to the city, but he did take note when he was sailing in of the Dragon Turtle Island that is off the shores of the city of Myrkos. And of course, Lord Percy knows something's going on there, but he's not sure quite what. Because Cesar wants to check it out, Lord Percy was actually able to write out some orders for Cesar and the other adventurers to join a navy vessel to go on patrol around the island. They also know that recently the band of villains has ordered Lord Percy to order the fleet to double their watch there. So it's under high guard, and Cesar and the adventuring crew will be able to get a little bit closer with these orders from the Lord of the City, which do carry some weight. And we did roll up the captain of this vessel they're being assigned to, Torinquan. And Torinquan is not one of Lord Percy's guys. He was someone that's been installed there, or that Lord Percy has been forced to install as captain by the villains. So we'll see how that goes once we get to it. And of course, if the party is going to infiltrate the Navy, they're going to need naval uniforms. So Lord Percy said, hey, here's the storehold by the harbor, where you can go and get yourself some uniforms. However, he did draw a bit of commotion to himself, and some guards had heard them and were coming out from behind the corner. So Cesar, because he is a cheeky devil, and they were on the second floor of this mansion, decided instead of climbing down the side of the mansion, like a normal person might do, he would use his wand of flying to cast fly on himself and then flutter away. Like I mentioned, he's a bard, so he can do that. Unfortunately, that comes with some risk. And that risk is that you roll a nat 1. And of course, in Shadowdark, if you use a wand and you roll a nat 1, the wand breaks and is no longer useful. Now you might be saying to yourself, why did this guy just use his luck to save the wand? It's because earlier in the session, he tried to use the other wand and also rolled a nat 1. So he had used his luck in order to save the first wand, only to see the second wand destroyed due to his own silliness. This drew the attention of some guards, but he was able to get away before any combat broke out. At this point, he headed towards the slums, which is where I decided the harbor was. And as I was rolling random encounters, he had an encounter with the Bywater Barons. Lucky for him, though, he was able to make friends and pay them off a little bit in order for them not to mug him. And because they made friends, the leader of this group, which I rolled up on the spot, is called Lehman. Of course, they decided to go drinking together at the nearby Boar and Shield. Now, the Boar and Shield is part of the wider world that I had previously developed in other YouTube videos. You can check out a link to that video series right up here. Yep, there's a little thing popping up there. And this tavern is known for is pit fighting. So when Cesar asked about perhaps getting the gold back that he had given them, the leader of the group, Lehman, said, yeah, I think you could earn that back. And of course, they walked outside to the pit fighting ring. A magic user in the gang snapped his fingers and lit up a ring of torches around the pit. And so the fight began. Cesar got the upper hand, but as luck would have it, I rolled that Lehman, the leader of the Baywater Barons, has a pet basilisk. So when he found out he was in trouble, he gave a whistle, and into the pit came a basilisk. Cesar held his own, but he was no match for this basilisk and got totally knocked out. Now, Lehman was impressed with Cesar's courage and tucked him into a bed where Cesar woke the next morning mostly intact. However, he did not benefit from a long rest, so he only woke up with 1 hit point. And because it was already morning, he wouldn't have a chance to go get those sailor's uniforms on his own, so he decided to go back and meet with the rest of the group. And that is where we're picking up today. So of course I'm using Mike Shea, aka the Lazy Dungeon Master, aka Sly Flourishes, Notion Planning Template. This is made for 5e, but you could really use it for any kind of role-playing game. I'm going to generate a new session planning template and rename it, of course. And a thing that I like to do is go into the past secret and clues from the last session. This helps me understand what secrets and clues that I've already given away, and it also helps me to reuse secrets and clues that I haven't given out yet. So it's a little less work that way. So what did I reveal last time when it was just Cesar? The bandits are working with a larger organization. This group's mid-tier leader, Nilash Vinos, is based in the Market District in the seat of power. Although we haven't had any run-ins with Nilash Vinos quite yet, there's something happening at the Great Dragon Turtle. The villains have forced Lord Percy to increase the number of ships guarding the area, and Lord Percy's family has been kidnapped, and he's being used as a puppet. I'll just get rid of those old ones, and here we have what's left over. Now, part of the Lazy Dungeon Master's methodology here is that you want to start every session with a strong start. I did talk to the players ahead of time and say, hey, do you want to immediately go to Trey? Do you want to immediately go and grab those uniforms, or do you want to explore one of the other story threads first? They all agreed that before going to get the uniforms, they did want to check out what was going on at the temple. They had been clued in by a priest in Treefell that there's something wrong with the Gedeian temple in Myrkos. So I think we're just going to start at them arriving at the temple. So the potential adventuring hook that we have here was, where's the original priest that Brig replaced? Brig is an elf, he's elderly, chaotic, and has a standard amount of wealth. And he was installed by the ruling group, these are the villains, to oversee the temple. And there needs to be some sort of mystery, right? Because those villains are trying to control the city. So they've already gotten Lord Percy under their thumb. And the reason why they removed the existing Gedeian priest was because they're just trying to further control the people of the city. So I haven't rolled up anything about the previous priest yet, but I think I'm going to do that now. So first I'm going to roll up this NPC on the NPCs table. We need a D12, a D8, 2 D6s, and a D20 for the name. So we know this person is going to be human. I don't think they're going to be a child, so we're going to re-roll that D8. That's more like it, middle-aged. Their alignment is going to be neutral, which makes sense because they're a Gedeian priest, and their wealth is going to be poor. And I flip-flop these 2 D6s around, but I think it makes for a character that fits in more with the story we're trying to tell here. And of course, we have the D20 roll, which is a 4. So if we go to the NPC names, we know this is called Endrick. And then let's roll up some qualities for Endrick with a trio of D20s. A 9, a 1, and a 14. A scar on their face. Maybe this is a fresh scar. Fits. And 14 can actually smell lies. And we know that they are the disposed Gedeian priest of Myrkos' modest temple. Now the question is, where is Endrick being held? I'm going to turn to actually a roll table from a different system, which is Ben Milton's Maze Rat. It's a great resource for a bunch of roll tables, and he just released a new version of it along with Knave 2e, which he also wrote. So I'm going to say that Endrick has been moved to and is probably being held captive in, I don't know, an upper class building. I think that makes sense. So I'm going to roll on this table to see which one it is. And as these tables are rolled out, they're a D66 table, which means you roll a D6 to determine which of the 6 tables that you roll on a second time. And then the second d6 is rolling it again. So the first roll is a 3, and the second roll is a 6. So 1, 2, 3, and then 6 is at the locksmith. So why would he be put in the locksmith? So locksmith is probably also very good at keeping people locked up. And then to determine where that locksmith is, since I haven't really fleshed that out anywhere yet, I think I'm going to say that the locksmith is located in the Southern Low District. And the reason why I'm going to say that is because the Southern Low District, at least to me, is the most interesting district of the city of Myrkos. That's because in this region here, floods with every high tide, and the only way you can get across is with a rowboat or something like that. Even in low tide, you still have about ankle-deep water that you have to trudge through. So the Southern Low District is going to be cut off from the rest of the city twice a day for a length of time as the water rises. So I'm going to add that to my world building notes here. And then, of course, I need to roll up who the locksmith actually is. So who is this person that the villains had put in charge of being Endrick's jailer, essentially? My first thought, actually, I don't think we need to roll that right now. I think that's something we can roll at the table if we need to. And I don't think the players are going to get there this session anyways. If they do, we can roll it up, sure, and we can run with it. But for the time being, I'm just going to leave that as it is. It's so easy to just go down world-building rabbit holes when you're prepping for a session. You can say, oh, this person has a connection to this person, so I better roll that up. And that person's connection is to this person. And that person lives here, so I should probably flesh out that area a little bit more. And they're related to this person. Oh, and this person was killed by that person. And so on and so forth. You could literally go on forever because these worlds are supposed to be as complex and as interesting and as deep as the real world, where there are infinite connections between everything, and there's an answer to pretty much every question in the real world, even if you and I don't know it. So I'm going to restrain myself here and get focused back on prepping for this specific session. All right, so I'm just copying Brig in here, help to send Endrick away from the locksmith. And I think that because and again, I've gotten off track a little bit here, because we're still working on our strong start, I need to decide what about showing up at the temple is a strong start. So I think that Brig's going to have 2d2 cronies guarding the temple's entrance. This is going to put the onus on the adventuring party to decide how to deal with them. I think that's what makes this a strong start, whether they're going to negotiate or whether they're going to fight to get inside. And I think that, we'll add this to the secret and clues, that Brig, or maybe one of these cronies, if they went about it the right way, is going to know that the former priest, Endrick, had been locked away at the locksmith in the Southern Low District. Another secret here is that Brig was actually installed there by the villainous group as part of a plan to control the people of the city. Now, as you might recall, there is another NPC that we haven't really introduced to the players yet that I want to get introduced. And that, of course, is Father Myrkos, the secret crime-fighting identity of Lord Percy. And I think that's why there are these cronies here. It's because Lord Myrkos has been skulking around, and perhaps he even broke in to steal some of the priest's files or belongings. So Father Myrkos has broken in several times in the last few weeks, always at night, and searching for something. I think there's going to be something that has gone missing, and I'm going to go back to the Maze Rats table to figure out what that was. I think it was a book that was missing, or perhaps a miscellaneous item. Maybe it was both things. Let's roll the dice and see what it could be. So we have a 6 and a 5. So 6 and 5, a tobacco pipe, and a book. Let's roll for a book. A 6 and a 5. A book of who's who. So Father Myrkos thinks there's some sort of a clue as to maybe who this villain is by looking in this book of who's who. And I think there's probably something else that tobacco pipe does too, or some sort of secret that it holds. But the great thing about planning this session to session is I can introduce that when it's convenient, and I can figure it out when it's convenient. So I'm not going to worry about it right now, but I am going to take note that there is a tobacco pipe that has some sort of a mystery behind it. So I think that's a pretty strong start here, and it's going to really get things going. So before I forget, if you are enjoying this video, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it, and it's the best way that you can stay in the loop on these new videos that I have coming out. So again, please subscribe to the channel. Now back to the prep. I'm just going to insert this into the scenes, although maybe I don't really have to. But I'm just going to do it anyways. Now, the next scene is either going to be the group going to the Southern Low District, or they're going to go find those articles of clothing. And of course, I'm not going to pigeonhole them into one of these two. I'm just making an educated guess as to what they're going to do next. If they did something totally off the rails, I'm just going to roll with it. But I'm just going to plan for what I think is probably going to happen. So Ender can be found here, and he knows of the safe house run by Kresh, but doesn't feel comfortable going there on his own. He probably needs to be escorted there. This would be another opportunity for our players to check in with Kresh and see if Kresh can be of any more help. Then another scene would be stealing the uniforms, and I think this is going to be a pretty easy thing. I'll probably roll a random encounter or two, just to see if anything does happen, but I think it's pretty straightforward. And then, of course, they're joining up with the Navy and Captain Torn. And if you see from the secrets and clues down here, Torn Quinn's actually a demon in disguise. That was a surprise to me, but we're just going to roll with it. And I think that might inform a little bit of who these people here that we are dealing with. These aren't just normal bad guys, but perhaps they're demons? I don't know. Demons are cool. Let's go with it. Torn Quan is going to be a bit upset because they don't go first thing in the morning. They're going to be late for their shift, and he's going to have to shove off late. Now, I haven't quite assigned where the Dragon Turtle Island is, but we know that in Hex 15 in here, that is where the city of Myrkos is. So I think that the island is probably off over here. So we're talking at least going through 2 hexes. And I'll probably roll for 2 random encounters. And just about 5 minutes ago, I realized I was wearing this shirt with a big kraken and a boat. So I wonder if maybe we should do with a kraken. I don't know. We can roll the random encounters and see what happens. As you probably know, if you're a fan of Shadowdark, there are a bunch of awesome random encounter tables within the game. So there are the ocean encounters, and maybe I'll just roll up 1 or 2 of those. That would be a little devilish, wouldn't it? Now, I've only briefly played in a seafaring campaign, but I'm really excited to try to run a little bit of seafaring in this campaign. And one of the resources that I have for that is actually Shadowdark's Cursed Scroll 3, which does have seasons and sea traveling tables. I guess I'll roll up the wind to determine what happens and if they're slowed down at all. I'm just going to say that each hex they cross is essentially going to be, I don't know, one like shift or whatever you want to call it. And if it's gusty, we will add some more time to that. And every hex they go across, they're going to have to make a danger roll. So we're going to be talking about at least 2 danger rolls, if not more. Then if they do want to visit the island, that's going to be where things get a little more dicey. So I'm hesitant onto whether or not I want to plan ahead to the Dragon Turtle Island, because I was thinking about making this a dungeon of sorts. The thing is, I don't know how much detail I want to go into this dungeon, but I think I'm just going to wing it at the table? Is that crazy? I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is take some graph paper with me and wing it at the table. Yeah, it's either going to be a lot of fun or really bad, maybe. I guess it could be somewhere in between. But yeah, that sounds fun. I'm going to try to wing it at the table. I'll let you know how it goes next week. And of course, in order for them to get to the Dragon Turtle Island, because they're just supposed to be patrolling it, they're going to have to take control of the ship. And if they want to take control of the ship, they're going to have to go through Tornquin, who, as we mentioned, is a demon in disguise. This demon is level 8. I believe our characters now are all at level 2. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge, but it's fun. Horse-headed fanged creatures who walk upright and have 4 arms, 2 shriveled and 2 ending in hulking pincers. This is also going to inform the Dragon Turtle Gen, because it's going to be occupied with more demons. That's pretty exciting, and I think my players are going to get a thrill over it. So let me take note of that before I totally forget about it. I'll also add secrets and clues. So to brush up on demons a bit, demons are chaos incarnate, born from the violent roil and madness of the dark realms. They watch from the liminal space between worlds, hoping to find a way the light realms to wreak destruction. Most demons are utterly unique in their powers and can take any form. However, some lesser demons share a common appearance and set of abilities. The most recognized of these lesser demons are listed here. So we have the Baylor, level 16. And boy, is that going to be tough if they run into a Baylor. The Dretch is a level 2. I see them as the minions of them all. And then, of course, the Glabrizu? I don't know what that word. Glabrizu. And this is, of course, what Tornquin is, level 8. I do wonder, and this is a demonic thought of my own that I'm having, should there be some sort of ocean-faring demons? Should there be some kind of ocean-faring demon? I think that there should. I think there should be some kind of ocean-faring demon, which I'm just going to invent at the table if it comes to it, because that sounds like a lot of fun. So I do think that there's a good chance that I won't be running the Dragon Turtle dungeon on the fly, because unless they make very quick work of everything else in front of them, we're just going to run out of time. And I think ending the session at the precipice of the Dragon Turtle would be a really dramatic cliffhanger to leave it on. So I think I'm done with my scene prep here. We have secrets and clues, which I think there are a good amount of here. But I do think that we need to name the villainous leader, because if they somehow defeat Tornquin, who's really a devil, they are going to potentially get out of him that the villainous leader is a Baylor. I think that's good. I don't quite know what that Baylor's intentions are or what their nefarious motives are, but I don't think I need to know that quite yet. So I think this gives us a decent number of secrets and clues to work with here. Fantastic locations. We have the Mater. Some of these can check off the list here. I'll just remove them from current because they've already been held. They've already been taken care of, and it seems unlikely that they are going to go back to some of these places. Where the NPCs, Crash, Brig, Endrick, Tornquin are the big ones here. Rain Edwardson, I think that they're not going to be following up on that lead, so I'm going to make her not current. Lord Percy's current. Hiroshigil, he's back at Treefell. They're not going to deal with him, I don't think. The leader of the villainous group. So we do know that this is a Baylor, so we can add that information. Then we don't know their motivations yet. And then Neil Venos is a drow. We know that. So the reason why he's a mid-boss and not an upper-tier boss is because he knows about them being demons, but he's just working for them. He's an agent on the ground for them. Monsters, we've already talked about him. It could be anything. Treasure. Man, I just love having my players roll for treasure at the table. Scratch pad. Notes. I think we're done. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Again, my name's Michael. I'm with Night Noon Games. I make a lot of cool games, especially for Shadowdark. I've got some really exciting Shadowdark projects that are coming up very soon that I'm super excited to share with you. So if you want to be kept into the loop on those projects, please use the link down below to sign up for my mailing list, where I'll also send you some free Dragon Turtle lore. You can also find me on the social medias. I've got the Twitter, I've got the Instagram. All the links are down below. So until our next adventure, stay inspired and keep those dice rolling. Thanks for watching.